Welcome. If you haven't joined me before, I'm Julie Ford. I am a self-taught artist and tutor. So basically, I help other people to discover their inner artist by sharing tools, tips, techniques that I've spent an awful lot of money learning from other artists. And the Wednesday evening sessions are about just taking time out of a busy life, a hectic schedule, to relax, play with some colour, have some fun. It's not about creating great artwork. It's about playing with your colours, your paper, your paints, and working out what works and what doesn't, and learning as you go, very often by my mistakes. So tonight, we've been doing watercolour, but tonight we're going to be doing gouache. And we're going to be painting this little picture, which if you haven't got a copy of the colours or the reference, and I also put some Bluebell photographs in the Google album, you can find it in the description where you can find these reference photos. So tonight we're not going to be working from a photograph as such. We're going to be working from this little picture that I have in front of me. So you should have a copy of that. I will talk a little bit about gouache in a minute, but first off, let's move all this down. I think that's better, and then you should be able to get this in as well. So let's talk about the colours first. So I have a set, I have quite a few gouache colours. I have some Winsor & Newton ones and some Holbein and Daler Rowney. I think I've got a couple of Shinhan as well. But I initially bought this set from Meeden, which are actually pretty good and very, very reasonably priced. So I have been using these initially. Now, we don't need all of these colours. So I pulled out a few colours earlier in the week and shared them. So we can get rid of a lot of these along the top. We are not going to need these. I have a couple of kind of rescue colours, so I'm going to keep this out. It wasn't in my initial list, but just in case. I'm keeping a pink, just if I need to brighten something up. But I'm going to get rid of my bright reds, my greens, because I can mix them, and mixing them is the best way to learn. So I'm going to get rid of all of those. I may reach them later, but I doubt it. I don't need a grey. I don't need that. I don't need that. Or my mid-yellow. So what I have is, I'm going to keep those as spare. I have burnt sienna, Prussian blue, burnt umber, lamp black, ultramarine. I've got a bit of cerulean, which has got very low on. A rose, so any quinacridone or magenta style colour. Then I've got a pale yellow, which is an orangey yellow, and a lemon yellow, which I actually haven't laid out yet, and a yellow ochre, which I didn't have up here, but I've put it out on my palette. Now, gouache dries really quickly, and it also dries a shade darker, like acrylics. Acrylics dry darker. So I think if you are working in acrylics, then what I'm going to suggest is that rather than paint as I would naturally, which is to start dark and then paint light over the top, which is probably the way I did this picture, I'm actually going to probably start with the lights and put the darks in over the top, because particularly if you're using acrylics, it's really hard to get the brighter colours on over the top. So we will still be working light to dark. So they're my core colours. I have laid them out in this palette. I've put them on wet tissue paper to help stop them dry out, and I also have a little spray so I can keep them moist if I need to, and that will depend on where you live in the world, how warm it is. So the colours I have: rose, ultramarine, a phthalo or Prussian blue, a lemon yellow, white, I've got the turquoise and yellow ochre, but I have also got a burnt umber and burnt sienna in there. So you do need some browns. I have also got a little bit of black in there, but you can reach for that later if you need it. So this was sort of the colour mixing guide that I did earlier in the week. I'm going to leave that up there. My paper, I've got a colour wheel here. My paper that I'm using, of course, is not watercolour precious paper this week, but this is actually from the Shore and Marsh from Hobbycraft, and it does say it's watercolour pad. It's hot press. This is 12 by 9, but it's, you know, it's a very cheap paper, but you can actually use any fairly sturdy paper for gouache. You shouldn't have any problem. I have my normal tools, so I have a pencil, and you don't have to be too concerned about a pencil with gouache because obviously it's opaque like acrylics, you can paint over stuff. I have a craft knife, I'm not sure I'm going to use it. I have a couple of very fine riggers. I have a couple of reasonably sized rounds and a couple of flats. I have my little fan brush and then another round. I'm probably not going to need any more than that. And I would say you can manage with gouache, with whatever you're happy working with. I quite like a small flat actually, so I might see how I get on with that. Now, let's put those up there. So you can actually use gouache very much. It is watercolour, but it's just opaque watercolour. So if I wanted, I could put very soft washes. In fact, I might just show you a little bit. So if I start just by putting in a little bit of colour here, I can actually just use it very light. Can you see? You can actually use it a bit like watercolour. So I can put some of that across my sky. It's just a very, very thin wash. And I can go back in afterwards. Now the thing is with gouache, it dries really quickly, really, really quickly. So it's very difficult to do something like nice flat washes because it just, every time you mix it up, if you're trying to mix a blue and a white to get a sky colour, every time you mix it up, you're going to have a slightly different shade. So you won't get a flat wash. So I'm going to put in some of my blue sky first because I can add in some of these lights afterwards. Let's move this down so you can see my picture a bit better. I might need to move it just a fraction more. That's better. But hopefully you have got your own version as well. I'm going to go in with a light wash of yellow just to give myself, and of course it doesn't matter up here, it mixes, and I'm not too worried about saving the tree because I can go over it. I want something a little bit warm in some of this area as well, and this, let me tell you, is all experimentation. So a mid green, I'm going to mix a little bit of my yellow with a little bit of my Prussian or phthalo blue because I want a green, but I want it to look like it's a bit further in the background, and into that I'm going to add the tiniest amount of raw sienna just to make it a little bit more natural, a little bit more blue, and I'm just going to add in, I'm going to leave a little gap for some of my tree. Let's Just try and work out where my tree is going to go, over here somewhere. You can lift gouache out as well, like you can with watercolour. So I'm just going to be building layers over here as we go. You can drop colour in, but it won't behave quite the same as watercolour. And also I'm using much cheaper paper, so it's not going to run like watercolour does. But I want some of this darker at the back. What I do want to do is get in some of the bluebells in initial colour first. This is all going to be painted over, so I'm not too fussed about that. I'm using a big flat brush because I want it to look fairly abstract. So how am I going to mix my lovely bluebell colour? It's such a gorgeous colour, and in the pictures that I put in the Google album, you will see that they basically go all the way around from a blue violet to a violet to a red violet. So you have some that look quite pink, and you have some very lime green. So knowing how to mix these colours is really useful. So to get a fresh lime green, you want a cooler yellow, you want a lemon yellow, and you want a blue green, a blue that moves towards green. And to mix your violet, you want a blue that leans towards violet and a red that leans towards violet. So a cooler red, not your pillar box cadmium red. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, this is drying while we're talking. So how do we go about mixing these colours? So I'm going to start with my blue, and I'm going to start with let's see what we get. We'll test out some of these colours. I'm going to start with my phthalo Prussian, just to see what sort of purple I get. Right, so that is beautiful. And this is thin. And can you see how that then goes into some of this colour? So let me just show you, and I'm not using it thick, I'm still using it very thin at the moment. So this is ultramarine with rose, and that's, can you see, that's more of a royal blue. Now all of these colours will work. So I am going to start, now I would suggest if you're using acrylics, start with your light colours. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more of both of these, make them thicker. And then at one end I can add a little bit of white in. So that's quite blue, that, so I want a little bit more. Right, so I'm going to start with a little bit of this, but it's my lower colour. And I'm going to leave some gaps where I can go back in with lighter colour. Now, I am also going to wash my brush off. Now you'll find if you're using gouache, your water will get very opaque because the opacity gets into the water, so your water gets dirty quite quickly. So this is much more of a purple. Can you see? It's probably too purple, but I rather like it. And if I put white over the top, now I can paint the green over this, so that's fine, I think, for me. Now let's add in a bit of white into that. Now don't forget, this is going to dry darker. And I want this light colour up here. If I don't like the shapes I'm putting in, it's not a problem because I can go back and put some more in afterwards. I can sort of cut it up a little bit. Got some little colours down here. And I'm going to go into this really dark, beautiful blue here. So this isn't as purple as the other one. Right. A bit later on I'll change the way I'm using the brush. Okay. Now, I'm going to put my tree in. So I'm going to have some yellow ochre. As I say, I'm going to start light and build dark over it. So I've still got a little bit of my colour left in that. So my yellow ochre, it's a bit wet, that. So I still had a little bit of this blue in, but that gives me quite a nice kind of dirty brown colour. So that's going to be the main colour of my tree coming down here. And don't forget, I'm going to go over it lighter. And I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt umber. I got this all over my hands earlier and I could not get it off, and I went into the bathroom. Oh, and it looked revolting trying to wash it off in the sink. So I hope nobody comes in. Right, so I've just dropped some brown in there, and I am going to run some little tree trunks up here. Because I can paint over them, under them, whatever I fancy. And I'm just using the edge of my brush. They'll disappear into the trees. I've got another tree back here. Got some trees running through there. And I've got some twigs down here, but I can paint these on over the top. Right. I want to get colour all over first, so I've got some, I want to put some green in. I haven't got green in this picture very much. I haven't got many leaves and things, but I do want them. So I'm going to mix up some of this bright green, but I need to dull it down a tad. So I'm going to use that raw sienna again. That's really quite a dark green. That's quite a good one for blocking in some of this area. Now, yeah, don't forget, I can go over it with lighter colour. So I'm building up layers. And this is often how people paint with gouache. I mean, it's fairly new to me, but I really like it because I find I get a bit frustrated with watercolour if I can't go dark enough or light enough, or can't get my lights back. And sometimes I find it's wishy-washy, my values are bad. So I like to be able to go back in and put some other colours in. Right, so I want to change that green now. So I come down for my Bluebells have a really, really bright limey some of the leaves are very, very limey. So I'm going to try some of this. In some areas where I've left some gaps. Got some brown hooked into that, that's all right. And then I want that a little bit darker. That's not very real, that colour, so let's put a little bit of this red in. There we are. And I'm just letting that run a little bit. So it's quite abstract, this one, very different from my normal style, but you can do it however you want, can't you? put in sort of a bit of a pathy colour. So I'm using the pile that I made up for my tree. I'm going to put a little bit, so I've got yellow ochre and white, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of burnt sienna, and it will give it a bit more of a pink tinge, so it will look different from the trees. I can put shadows in over this later. I don't want to paint over my purples because they're rather nice, so I can put some darker, drop in some darks down here. Very, very different to my normal style. So yes, it seems more forgiving. What gouache is more forgiving than acrylic, I think. I think personally. So I'm going to go back into the dark side of my tree and darken some of this up. That's still very wet actually, so I might have to leave that for a bit. Now I'm going to change my brush so I can have some different shapes, and I'm still going to work big. Still want to work quite large. So I'm going to put in some of my foliage and stuff in the background. It's not actually that easy for me to see this picture from here, but I think if I stand it up it's going to be hard. You should have your own reference, so hopefully that's okay. Yeah, so you're right, there does seem that you do need to plan much more ahead for watercolour, much more. Yeah. So this is not quite the right colour, but I'm going to do my foliage. Now what I want is a very, very dark green. So I'm going to get my... Ooh! We can start to use it much thicker now. So I've got, this is my Prussian or Phthalo, whatever you have. And I am going to pick up some of this warmer yellow. Now that's made quite a nice mid green. There we are. And because it's really dry on my brush, I can begin I've got no texture on this paper, it's hot pressed, so it's literally the fact that it's very sticky, and that is what, it doesn't matter if I paint over the tree because I'm going to go over that again anyway. It's actually the fact that it's very sticky that's allowing me to do this. There's no texture to pick up. It's actually easier than watercolour. So I want that really dark. I can, if I want, add in a little bit of black. I know black is so frowned on. But not everywhere, but maybe just at the bottom of some of these areas. So it's actually worked into a very, very dark green. Right, that's wet there. If I go too much, it doesn't matter because I can come back in again with some darker, some lighter colours over the top. And even down here, I can begin to put in some darker. I'm not doing anything really like I did the previous painting. But that's what life's about, isn't it? Experimenting. A little bit more water on that. Just see what it looks like. because if you don't like it, you can paint over it. Right. I'm going to do my trees. I want a different colour, so I'm going to use a different blue and a different yellow from my background. So I'm going to use my yellow ochre, and I'm going to go into that blue that I made the... that's not worked actually. The blue that I made... oh, I don't know. That's quite a nice sludgy green. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. I want to leave some sky holes. So I want that to look like it's coming forward. I'm just going to keep lightening it up as I go. Move my brush around so I'm getting different marks. Right. And then down here. Right, let's see. Now I am going to... what am I going to do now? I want to cut into this a little bit. So I'm going to mix up some of my yellow with this green. See if I can... some colour in there. So I'm putting some green in. It's a different green, if you can see. It was basically lemon and ultramarine that I used for this. I might put some bluebells, more blue, so into my ultramarine here, and put some of that in there. I love the fact that if I don't like it, I can just change it. Right, I want this to be darker on one side, so I'm going to go in with my burnt umber into that very, very dark green. I want it a little bit more grey, so I'm going to just touch a little bit of white into that. There we are. I'm going to change some of these colours up a little bit. I'm using a thinner brush. I can start making some thinner lines. I've got some over here as well. Take some of these trees up through here, and then I can later on add some light to them. Just get the general shapes in. Right, how are we doing? Oh yeah, it does. I find it much more spontaneous than watercolour. I like watercolour, but I like all the other things that allow you to really play. Right, so now I want to put some light on my... I've got water on my palette, which is not allowing me to mix very thick mixes, unfortunately. So I've got some yellow ochre and some white. I want to put some light marks. If it's not, if you find it's not light enough, it doesn't matter, because next time you go in, you can lighten it up again. And then I can paint darker over it if I need to. Just putting in some highlights on some of these areas. Let's make this thinner. That's running into the other one, but that's fine. Okay. Put some bit like light over in that corner. I mean, you can do what you fancy, really, can't you? Got some light hitting it over here. And down here, actually. But in order for that to notice, I need to go in darker again. So I might do that. I do want to get all my paper covered at some point, but that's coming together slowly. I want to paint in to that very, very dark area at the back, because I want my bluebells to show up. So then I can go back in and put some light in as well. That's fine. My husband's creeping in, trying to make no noise. Put some darks in here. And in here. I think that's why I like gouache. The same reason I like pastels, because if it all goes wrong, you've got to get out claws, because you can paint over it and go back in. Right, now I need to let some of that dry. So let's see how dry this is up here. That's fairly dry. But I need to go in thicker, because can you see, you can still see a bit through the leaves. So I'm going to find a dry well. That's wet well. That won't work. Let's try it out. I think my dog's having a fit outside because there's foxes in the garden. I'm going to use the lemon. Ooh. What have we got here? That's quite a nice mid-green, but I want to go a bit lighter, so a bit more lemon. I don't want to add white in if I can avoid it, because it make it go a bit pasty. Then try and lighten it up with my lemon first. No, that's too yellow. And the value is not different enough, but it'll work over here for some of it. And then I'll change the colour up one of the other areas. Okay, so I need a different green. going to try a different brush as well. Let's try a different brush. Smaller brush. And I've got this green here. Look, that's very... I kind of just made it out of mush. I need some more yellow. Yeah, definitely a fox in the garden. It's going to have to be let out to run riot. I want a lemon. I don't want that green. Oh, I'll do that later. Right. That's a lemon. I find lemon, yellows and blues are the colours I use so much more than any others. That's quite a good green. That's quite a nice green, that. There we are, I can get some lighter. And if I put this on and then I think, oh, actually, I didn't go dark enough, I can add dark over it. I can add dark to it and then go back over again. I can put my sky holes back in. And I am using the same technique with the side of the brush, and it's not a textured paper, but as I say, because it's sticky, kind of works. I want to go darker here, so I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to use my little square one. I'm trying now not to put water into it, so I don't think I went dark enough over here, so I'm going back in. That's a very, very dark green, but let's give it a go. Slightly different to the background. It's not a very real green, so let's make it a bit more realistic. I've put a little bit of crimson in it, so it should take out the power. Okay, I've got a few different colours going on there now. That'll be quite a good one down here. It's nice and dark. You can see how much this lightened up at the bottom. It was dark when it went in. It normally dries darker, but I think because it was I had a lot of water in it. Right, now what do we want to do? That's quite nice, I quite like that. These different greens actually work quite well together, don't they? Some are cool, some are warm. Go back in with this one. This is my lighter green here. And as it gets nearer the foreground, it can get a little warmer. So a little bit more of that yellow. Make it a little bit more sun dappled over here. Who says it has to look realistic? Now, I want to chop into my flowers at the back a bit. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sue. Are you going to do it in acrylics because you haven't got any gouache, have you? You could get away with just a few colours. Message me on the school if you want to know what colours. If you wanted just to buy a few, I can let you know which ones. Right, so I'm going back into this mix. This is my Bluebell, very pale. Right, that's got caught into my green. And also I want that to be more blue. So that's gone very, very, very blue. Let's try this. That's a nice colour. But again, that looks very dark on here. But so that dry a bit more. Now I think I still need it to go a bit darker here, so yes, the black's coming out. Mix it into that green, because I want this to stand out as an area of real dark. And it works the other way, you see. I've put light on, but I'm now going back in and putting in some darker areas, because this would all be in shadow at the back. Little bits of light poking through. I think one of the things about painting is it's really hard to go dark enough. So this is quite a good, it's just a good medium for being able to resolve things as you go, experiment, work it out as you try. Some big shadow here. Try and get some of my dark shapes to join up, but I don't want stripes. Right. Okay. It's kind of taking shape, isn't it? Make sure my brush is really, really, really clean. Now, again, I can go lighter here. Now, I do have, this is a brilliant colour, saffron green. I discovered this and it became quite a favourite. It is luminous, but it works really well over some colours. So that's my brush. No water in it. I've got a damp brush, but that's it. And we've got some sun over here. Sun's coming in this way. As it goes, it mixes with the other colours, so it kind of gives you some nice different shades of green. I don't want it too mad. A little bit of white. don't want it all over either, do I? It's a bit limey there, doesn't quite work. Little bits in the back, that dippy-dabby. Always telling people not to do dippy-dabby, but hey, sometimes you need a bit. It's about play and experimentation. And down here, I'm going to have some light. It's going to be hitting what's here. A little bit under there. Not everywhere. There we are. I think I'm going to put some in here because I want my bluebells at the back to be in light. Now, the thing I haven't mentioned, of course, is watercolour, so it does reactivate. Right, if I think I've overdone that, I can change it up again. Now I want to put some bluebells in. I'm going to try doing it with my rigger because I want these to be lighter and bluer. So this is pretty. And I don't want too much control. That's a bit grey. So I think what's happened is I've got some other colour in that. Let's clean that off a bit. I want it to be vibrant, and that's not. I'm going to mix it in one of these wells actually. Let's try that. And find some clean water first. Right, let's get that and my red. Oh, that looks nice. And then I want, right, that's a beautiful colour. Now I want some uncontaminated white to put into it. Let's see how this looks. Better. That is much better. And in some of this area we've also got a little bit of pink. That works quite well over there. And we'll have a bit more detail down this end. They really can be very sort of royal blue. That's it, so I'm chopping that up a little bit. And in there. So I should have some of these mauves and purples still poking through a little bit. But I'm actually mixing on the paper here. That's looking not too bad. There wouldn't be any detail that far in the distance. That's okay, but there would be down here. So now I want to go lighter again. And pinker. That might have gone a bit grey. So I need to chop up some of this bluebells at the front. So I'm probably going to put grass underneath. So any green, I think. That's quite a nice colour. I've just got to stand up and have a look, see what this looks like. It's practically impossible to tell from here. Mixing some of this in, and I'm probably going to put some blue sky holes back in. But I'm going to stand up. How's the time? Right, up for time. Oh, that's not looking too bad at all, is it? So let's do a few more bits and pieces. Oh, so you have gouache. Good. No, I'm not a great lover of acrylic. I just find, I don't know, some people manage it really well. I'm not one of them, I don't think. Let's try this. That's a bit better, a bit of vibrancy. I'm going to put some sky holes in, and I'm going to do that. Oh, I haven't used the fan brush yet. What do we think? So my sky holes, if I know it white. Always need a lot of white. But I wonder what this colour comes out like. Well, it's not far off what I've mixed, is it? You can actually look that up and see what pigments they are as well. Oh, do you know what? Let's have a go. Oh, it's all right, isn't it? I want a little bit more pink. Oh, that's very pink, but you do have some of that colour actually. Yeah, it's probably too dark. So some white. This will dry in the palette. The thing is, you can put gouache in palettes and they do dry, but they don't stick like watercolour do, so they'll fall out, or you might have to put some glycerin or something in to help them stay. The best thing to do is actually keep them moist or use them fresh out of the tube. That's better. Look at that. That's a good colour. I don't want to overdo it. But back there we are. I want some blue, proper blue ones there. There we are. Hopefully I haven't overdone it. It is easy to overdo it. Just going to go in and tidy up some bits on my trees. Sky holes I said I'd do, didn't I? So I need some more white. And a slightly smaller brush. Actually, it's a bigger brush, but never mind. Let's use this one. I've got my white, and I'm going to go with, ooh, look, I've got this turquoise here. God, what a mess. Because it's different from the colours that we've used for the Bluebells. Got some sky holes coming in. Okay, now next. Want some white. Oh, forgot to put that in there. Now, got some little bits of sunlight coming in here, and this is a very thick mix of white with a little bit of yellow. Need to make those look like they're kind of shining through a little bit more. That's actually in front of those. That's better. And at the back, make it a little bit. Oh, done too much there. It's a bit slightly different colour. It's a bit pink, that. And it's dry brush, so it's not going to be. It's going to leave a bit of a mark. Yeah, but it's broken, so it looks a bit more like it's tree bark. Let's put in some other little bits, make it runnier. And I need that very thin. Oh, yeah, I'm out of time, I know. It's such fun. To make that darker under there. So just on its side. And some dark bits on here. And I think I'm going to call that done. I think, let me have a stand up and have a look. Yeah, now probably if I were going to do anything else, it would be just to add in maybe some lighter greens. Just give it a bit of variation, to be honest. What's that? And if I wanted, I could go back in and add some darks. So you can just keep going. Just keep playing till you're happy with whatever you've got. That's better. So that's a bit more depth. There we are. I'm going to leave it now. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed it, do come over to my free school account and say hello. Join us over there. And do say, do subscribe. Come back another time. I'm fiddling now, and it's gonna. I'm not going to be very happy if I keep fiddling. Yes. Subscribe, share with your friends. Come back another time. Follow me on Facebook. My free school community. It's building. We've got some nice people in there having a chat. Thank you, Sue. I'm so glad you joined me. I'd have been nobby no mates otherwise. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye.